What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you yet again with no voice. Happy Festivus to everybody. I'm wearing the Festivus garb here, the extremely gay apparel. Let's fight consumerism, baby, and have ourselves a nice Festivus. Make sure to air your grievances with your family today. Make sure to fight your father, and everybody gather around the aluminum pole. Make it a gay old time. Yesterday sucked, obviously. 1-2-1 yesterday. What do you want me to say about it, man? I thought I was going to lose every single game. I mean, the Jets, both football games, bullshit, man. The Jets outgained the Rams and just didn't convert into anything. They didn't get any touchdowns in the game. I think they might have fumbled the ball over twice. I mean, again, it wasn't really Aaron Rodgers. It was like, I don't know what the deal is there, man. This Rams defense, all of a sudden, teams can't score against them. The game was 9-9, I think, in the fourth quarter. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm probably going to maybe escape. Not probably, but maybe escape this thing with a win. I don't know what else to tell you, man. I mean, that was just ridiculous. Jets did outgain them. Seattle outgained Minnesota as well, I'm pretty sure. I think they may have lost the turnover battle on that one, too. Seattle took the lead with like 3 minutes left in the game, so I was thinking I was going to get that one right. Nope, that one winds up pushing, because luckily I did take a 3 on that one, so that one was a push. Then the Denver Nuggets, I mean, they put themselves in a massive, massive hole. They were losing by at least like 10 or 15 points there, maybe even worse. Like, you're not going to overcome that and cover as a big favorite. And they still kind of teased me and made it look like they might, because they made a huge run and took the lead, and they were up 4 or 5 points pretty late in the game. And I'm thinking, are they actually going to do this? No, I mean, the run that they made was way too late. They like dominated the later portion of the game, but it was not enough. And the game wound up going into overtime. Then it looked like they might even actually cover in overtime, which, I mean, that's a tall ask. So that didn't happen. So they wound up winning and not covering. So that's great. And then Seton Hall was getting blown out of their game, and they came all the way back, and they got to within 1 right at the end to cover the +2.5 and not cash on the money line, but whatever. I'm like, all right, well, I'll take the win on that one, because they were completely out of it. Georgetown had another pretty good shooting game, not from 3 this time as much, but kind of ridiculous. And then Seton Hall had a terrible shooting game. Charles, that's right. I've made a donation in your name to the Human Fund, sir. All right, let's talk about college football, because we do have 2 bowl games, and one of them, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, is coming up like right now in 5 minutes. I don't have a bet on this game, but I'll just talk about it briefly. This is Coastal Carolina at Texas San Antonio, or not at, but Coastal Carolina against Texas San Antonio. It's in Conway, South Carolina, near Myrtle Beach. So you might say, well, doesn't that mean it's kind of a home game for Coastal Carolina, because they play somewhere near this? I don't even know where Coastal Carolina actually is located. I think they are in South Carolina, somewhere near Myrtle Beach. So, but I'm going to say no. I don't think Coastal Carolina is excited about this. And there's a reason why UTSA is up from 7.5 to 12.5. They're public with 69% of tickets, 68% of the cash. I mean, I probably would not want to lay this huge price at this point, 12.5. If you got one of the better numbers, like below 10, then good for you. Up, it just flips. So the cash percentages on UTSA. I mean, the money is obviously coming in on the UTSA side, but the main reason driving this line move is, of course, bowl opt-outs. Coastal Carolina, who I don't even know who they're starting at quarterback in this game. Like, their rostered quarterbacks, I think, basically are all gone. Their main quarterback this year was Vasco, who I think was the one who played in their bowl last year, and he is opting out. I think he's transferring somewhere else. So I don't. Your guess is as good as mine. I haven't looked into it. I have no idea who's going to be quarterback for Coastal Carolina, and that's bad, because Coastal Carolina is mostly a passing offense. So good luck with that. So UTSA is coming into this as the more complete team at the very least, and I think they still have their quarterback there, which is, I believe, Owen McCown, Josh McCown's son, and they've been sneakily pretty good late in the season. They played pretty competitively against some good teams. So I mean, Texas San Antonio should win this game. I mean, they're the team that has more of their starters playing. They might be a little bit more excited about this, even though you get some distractions when you go to Myrtle Beach in the winter. But I mean, Coastal Carolina, I don't know if they're going to see this as much of a reward, man. They're basically not going anywhere. They're staying pretty much around their campus. Their quarterback is opting out. So it's like, doesn't seem like it's going to be that exciting a game to them. I mean, this is a program that's been in multiple bowls recently. Both of these teams have been in multiple bowls recently. So as far as the excitement factor, as far as that's concerned, I don't think that matters as much. I mean, for either side, really. I mean, both of these teams, this is just kind of whatever. Thank you, Scott. We'll see what happens with that. It is not a good situation right now. And I have a headache today, so isn't that awesome? So not a whole lot to say about this Myrtle Beach Bowl, man. The totals down from 59 to 56 and a half, 80% of the tickets, 85% of the cash on the over. But again, I'm going to say that I think probably the drop in the total again probably has to do with Coastal Carolina basically having no quarterback coming into this. Although I'm not going to say they're not going to score in this game, but UTSA has the more balanced offensive attack too. They're the more complete team. They're the better team anyway, and they're coming into this with a more complete squad. So UTSA should win this game. Whether they win by this margin, your guess is probably as good as mine. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I would still lean that way, though. If you wanted to force me to lean on this, I would still lean to Texas San Antonio winning this game rather easily, but I don't know for sure. The other bowl game today, we have two bowl games today. The other one is the famous the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, whatever it's called. I love these bowl names. This one hasn't really changed recently. Famous Idaho Potato Bowl. It's at Boise State. They play it on the blue field of Boise State. Let me just check these odds. These odds I don't think have shifted again in the recent time here, because I have a Bowl Mania entry where I have to get all these picks in. So I bumped UTSA up a little bit in that one. As far as like picking them to just win the game. This is at least kind of a more interesting game in the Potato Bowl here. It's not actually going to be that cold. It's going to be in the mid 40s in this game. So one of my initial reactions on this was, well, it's Fresno State having to go into Boise. Doesn't seem like the greatest environment for them to be in, like a warm weather team having to go into the cold. Well, it's not going to be that cold, but maybe that'll still be a little bit of a factor. But I do like Northern Illinois in this game anyway, just because I think they're the better team. And this game doesn't really have a lot of significant opt-outs. I don't think there are opt-outs on both sides, but it's kind of like a typical opt-out scenario on both sides. So I don't really see an advantage one way or the other. I think both teams' key players, I think, are for the most part going to be in this game, although I could be wrong about that. We've seen the line creeping up on Northern Illinois. For the whole time this line has been out. It was sitting at 2.5 for a while. It's up from 1.5 to 3 with juice now. So if you like Northern Illinois, you better lay the 3 or less than that, because it's only going to go a little bit higher than that, I would imagine, by the time this game happens in the afternoon. 78% of tickets, or 58% of tickets, 73% of cash on the Northern Illinois side. Again, I agree with it. Northern Illinois, they're the better team. I think they've flown under the radar most of the year. I mean, people tend to like shit on MAC teams and whatever. And I know it's the whole thing. MAC teams don't do that well in bowls, whatever. It's kind of a thing of the past anyway. But Northern Illinois, they're a pretty good rushing attack, man. And remember, this is a team that beat Notre Dame. So Northern Illinois, they can't be that bad if they beat Notre Dame. They're actually one of the better teams in the MAC. They just had a few bad games in there. They lost coming out of that Notre Dame game, which I think they had a bye after that, but they lost coming out of the bye, and I won money on that. I took Buffalo. I had a good college football year at the very least, good college football season. So Northern Illinois, I mean, they had a couple of losses in there that didn't look very good, but they're a pretty good team. They're one of the probably top 3 teams in the MAC, really, to be honest. I don't know how excited they're going to be to play in the Potato Bowl, because both of these teams actually have been in bowls recent years. They both won a bowl last year, so there's no real motivational standpoint one way or the other there either. Like, how excited are these teams going to be? Fresno might be a little bit less excited, still going into a little bit of a colder environment there. I don't know, but I think Fresno's the weaker team. I mean, if you look at their offensive numbers, they're not an offensive juggernaut, to say the least. And Northern Illinois, I mean, they're not really either, but they can run the ball pretty well. So I think that's probably going to be the story of this game. Northern Illinois probably should be able to get something going on the ground in this game. They have the better defense as well, in my opinion. So I do like that side in this game. And I don't know what else I have to say about that, but that's pretty much it. Total in this one's down from 41.5 to 40.5. Juice to the under, 58% of tickets, 65% of the cash, both on the over. The under might make sense in this one. This one looks like it's going to be a very low scoring game. Much less so than the Myrtle Beach Bowl, which that Myrtle Beach Bowl, I mean, you might want to potentially look to the over in that one, to be honest. Even though Coastal Carolina, we have no idea who their quarterback is going to be. It might be a situation where teams, it just started, where teams don't come out and play really intense defense in that one, but we'll see. But again, Northern Illinois, this game looks like it could be one of those kind of grinding, really ugly games, which is what Northern Illinois likes to play. Fresno, not very talented on offense. Northern Illinois, good rushing attack and good defense. So that might be the tale of this game. Not expecting a ton of points to be scored in this game. Probably not going to be very exciting, which is what the total is telling you. This might be the lowest total out of all of the bowl games. So we'll see what happens in that game, but lean to Northern Illinois in that game. That's the strongest lean. If I was going to play that game, that's the way I would play it, is to lay Northern Illinois -3, or maybe you can find like a money line around like -150. That is what I like there. College basketball. Charles, what's up, man? The clam chowder bowl. Boston has a bowl. The Fenway Bowl has been around for a few years now. It's the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. Wasabi is actually a company. I don't know what the fuck they even do, but the Fenway Bowl is ugly, man. It is like, it's bad. It's always at like 11 a.m. They've only played like 3 of them, I think, at this point. It seems like every time they play it, it's always at 11 in the morning, because I'm like considering going to it, and I'm like, why would I get up and go to this? And every time it's been like in cold rain. It's just ridiculous. SMU was actually in it last year against Boston College. Boston College, I guess, had the home advantage. I guess they kind of were excited to be there to face like a kind of better SMU team. And SMU got caught and didn't play well in the game. BC actually beat them with Castellanos, and he was still there. And it was an ugly, cold, rainy game, which was more to BC's liking because they run the ball and play defense. So, and they're a little bit more physical. So that game is always terrible, though. And there is one this year, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. I don't know when it's happening, but let me see. It is happening probably pretty soon. It is on December 28th. It's UConn and North Carolina in that one, which maybe I'll talk about that one when I get to it. That game looks pretty ugly as well. I mean, man, I'm not doing a whole lot with the bowls, as you've seen. I played one bowl, and I've played one playoff game that was a really easy win. I'm 2-0 in those. 11 a.m. I mean, that's the thing, man. And that's what you get with these bowls. This game that just kicked off is at 11 a.m. And then tomorrow is Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve has the Hawaii Bowl, which wasn't on Christmas Eve last year. It usually is on Christmas Eve, and it is again this year. And that game is always at a really weird start time, our time, because they have to play it in Hawaii. So Hawaii is, they're way earlier than we are. So that game used to be at like 8, 9 at night here, but now I think they might have bumped it up and made it a little bit earlier. I don't even know, but I'll talk about it tomorrow. That game is not a game that I'm probably interested in getting involved in either. These bowls are just so hard to gauge, man. College basketball today, we have a small slate. I've got one play in college basketball, and I don't know what else I really have to say about this. We do have this Diamond Head Classic tournament going on in Hawaii. All these teams, we saw them all play yesterday. The one thing that happened yesterday of interest maybe was that I believe Loyola Chicago, I think, lost to Oakland yesterday as a favorite. So that was kind of the one upset that happened in this tournament. So Loyola Chicago might be a little bit pissed off about that. That means they're not going to win this tournament. But when you lose, when you're supposed to win, you might be a little bit angry. So they might come in and play a good game in this one against Charleston. Loyola is going to, I think, try to maybe counter Charleston's pace, but I think Loyola actually might play a little bit fast too. Charleston just plays ridiculously fast, but Loyola looks like they do have the cash percentage on them, down from 3 to 2.5, but 65% of the cash, 57% of tickets on Charleston. Public kind of tends to like this Charleston team just because they score a ton, although they like Loyola too, because Loyola Chicago is, the Sister Jean team. They still are the team that made that run. So I would look to the Loyola side to bounce back, though. And then also Oakland on the other side of it. I don't know if they'll be able to keep up an effort like that again against Oregon State, although we do see the market indicators do seem to be on Oakland here, with Oregon State being public, 79% of tickets, 60% of the cash, down from 11 to 8.5. So who knows? Although, I would expect Oakland might run out of steam a little bit, facing 2 better teams than them in a row after pulling off one upset. But we will see. I mean, at the very least, they're probably still going to be motivated to try to win this game. And then you got Hawaii. I mean, they have the home court advantage at the very least because this tournament is being played at their arena. But, I mean, is that going to be enough? I mean, the money looks like it is coming in on Hawaii against Nebraska. Nebraska down from 10.5 to 9.5. 62% of the tickets on them, 79% of the cash on Hawaii. So it does look like the money is coming in there. The game I'm playing is not in this tournament, and it is Seattle plus 11. I'm going to take the shot on it. I mean, Washington is definitely public. The line's moved up from 9 to 11, and I think basically if you look at KenPom, he's got this line at 9. The 9 seems to be a more fair line than 11. 93% of tickets, 94% of the cash on Washington. I'm not sure that I buy that actual legit money's coming in on the Washington side here, but I'm going to fade this. I mean, this is a little brother, big brother situation. Seattle, I mean, they're playing in their home city too, because Seattle plays in Seattle, obviously, and the University of Washington is also in Seattle. So this is a big, like, inner city battle here where Seattle's the little brother. So Seattle tends to step up their game against Washington. I think they did last year. I think I might have played Seattle against Washington last year, and it may have won. I don't remember. I don't remember if they covered, if they won outright. I don't remember. Although if they won outright, maybe Washington will remember that and kind of want some revenge. But I'm not sure that that's really going to happen in this game. If you look at what Washington's coming off of, they're coming off of a way bigger win, man. I mean, they played 2 Washington games in a row against Eastern Washington, who isn't that good this year, I don't think. And then Washington State. That's their biggest rival, man. Washington versus Washington State. That's the big cross-state rivalry there, with Washington State being out in Eastern Washington over in Pullman near the Idaho border there. That game, I mean, Washington coming off that game, I think they're in a letdown spot coming off of that. That's a huge game. That was like 5 days ago. They beat their rival, Washington State. Washington State's off to a pretty decent start to the season, too, and Washington was able to get that win. Even though I know Washington's been playing well at home, but when you're coming off a win like that against your major rival, I think you are going to have a little bit of a letdown after that. Coming in and facing Seattle here, who is a littler brother. And then you look at Seattle. Yeah, I know they haven't played well on the road. Their record doesn't look good, but they have not faced a very easy schedule. They did lose to Eastern Washington. So again, the public is going to do that, kind of transitive thing and be like, oh, well, Washington beat Eastern Washington, who beat Seattle. So obviously this is a huge mismatch. I mean, I'm not saying Washington's not the better team here. They obviously are, but I'm taking the points with Seattle here because I don't think we're going to have a fully focused Washington team here. Seattle, they haven't faced the easiest schedule, really. I mean, they played Duke. I mean, obviously they weren't going to win that game. Furman is pretty good. This is a nice win over UC San Diego. On the road, actually, it looks like, too. UC San Diego is a pretty good team. Cal Poly hasn't been bad this year. Liberty's not that bad. I mean, some of these games, and they played that game pretty close, they haven't had an easy schedule, really. So I think Seattle has had the more difficult schedule. If you look at KenPom has Seattle having like the 60-something or 70-something like hardest schedule in the country, and he has Washington like way down, actually. I think in like the bottom 10 strength of schedule in the entire, in all of Division One. So he has Washington as having faced a way easier schedule than Seattle. So that's part of the reason why Seattle has an ugly record. He has Washington as one of the luckier teams in like the top 70 in his like luck rankings or something like that. Seattle, not so much. He has Seattle down in like the 200s in his luck ratings. So that kind of indicates towards the Seattle side for me as well, because he's basically saying that Washington has overperformed a little bit. Seattle has underperformed. So Seattle is actually better than the record would make it look. And look what Seattle's coming off of, man. Whoops. Well, they lost to Western Kentucky. Yeah, Western Kentucky. I don't know how good they are really this year, but UIC, this UIC team, even though their record looks good, they're not a very good team. And they went into Seattle and they beat Seattle in Seattle's home arena. Oh, it looked like it was a very empty arena, though. But, I mean, I think Seattle's fans may show up for this one because it's in Seattle. Well, it's against Washington. I mean, both these games are in Seattle, but nobody cares about Illinois, Chicago. But this is a big game against Washington, so I think their fans will show up in this one. This game, Seattle is a 6.5-point favorite, and they lost. That's pretty embarrassing, man. I mean, you don't want to lose as a favorite like that to an inferior team. That's what they're coming off of. UIC shot 42.9% from three. A little bit of an outlier there, a little bit high. Seattle had a turnover problem in the game as well. So I think we may see some regression as far as that's concerned. And I think maybe Seattle was looking ahead to this Washington game, man, because this is a much bigger game for them than Illinois, Chicago is. So I think they just got caught and played a bad game in a look-ahead spot. I expect a better performance for Seattle in this one. And then on the Washington side, I mean, you can look at their schedule and see it has not been very strong. Nevada was one of the better teams they played. They lost. Colorado State's definitely down this year. I know that win looks pretty good, but it's not really that good. Santa Clara, that's a pretty good win. I mean, Santa Clara is not that bad this year. And then they lost at UCLA, but I mean, I'm not going to blame them for that. UCLA is pretty good. Losing pretty badly to USC, that's not very good. USC is not very good this year. They did bounce back from that, but again, now they're coming off that big win over Washington State, and this is their last game before they go into the holiday break a little bit there, and they have their Christmas. So I think Washington is kind of just hyped that they beat Washington State, and they don't care as much about this game. They're just looking to get in, get out, and then go into the break here. That would be my opinion as far as how this game is going to go. So give me the points with Seattle plus 11 in that one. After the city of Seattle let me down yesterday, hopefully they don't today. Moving over to NBA, although I don't actually have any plays in the NBA. This is, I mean, it's a huge NBA card. We have big NBA and NHL cards, and I'm looking at the slate here, and I'm like, I hate this. I absolutely hate it. I don't even know what to say about most of these games, to be honest. I mean, Spurs, 76ers, you could make the argument that the Sixers have like a ridiculously bad-looking record, so then how are they laying 5.5, up to 5.5 with juice? But I think we know the answer to that. It's because the 76ers were playing without basically their entire team most of the season, and now those guys are all back. So a fully intact 76ers team, or at least mostly intact, is a lot better than what we've seen out of them for most of the year. So they got 60% of the cash on them, 70% of the tickets coming in on the Spurs. Public's still not really buying the 76ers, having Embiid back and whatever, and I guess going with Wembanyama, however you pronounce his name, Wemba, going with one of the most talented players in the NBA there, going with the Spurs side, I guess, thinking that it's value, taking a decent amount of points with a team with a better record, but I would be hesitant to do that. I mean, I would lean to the 76ers in this one. I'm not going to do it, obviously, but I mean, there are some factors here. 76ers are coming off a loss to Cleveland. It was a pretty bad loss, though, so I don't think that 76ers are really going to be hung over or anything like that, but they do have Boston up next on Christmas. So that's the thing. Like, you got to look. Some of these teams have look-aheads to Christmas Day. A lot of these teams are playing on Christmas Day, so that is one factor getting involved here as well. Bucks Bulls, I'm only pointing out because it looks weird to me that the Bucks are only a 1.5-point favorite against a Bulls team that's definitely worse than the Bucks. Bucks 67% of tickets, 63% of the cash. I don't know how to read into this. The Bucks, I mean, their injury report looks like it always does. We don't know who's playing, basically. It's Giannis, Middleton, and Lillard are all listed as game time decisions. So it's like, yeah, you want to try the crapshoot on this one, go ahead. But I mean, I'm not going to get involved in this game at all. I have no idea who's going to play for the Bucks, so I will stay away from that one as well. And then Pacers Warriors. I mean, this one caught my eye a little bit. Warriors sitting at a 5.5-point favorite, a little bit up, but very public, obviously. 88% of tickets, 92% of the cash. Public's going to come in on the Warriors. Indiana's been struggling this year. To me, I looked at this game, though, and I'm thinking, well, is Indiana in a bad spot? Because they're playing a back-to-back. They're playing a third straight road game after winning the first two at Phoenix and at Sacramento. They're not going to overlook Golden State, even though they do have Oklahoma City and Boston up next. I mean, this is a big game as well. So the question is Indiana going to kind of run out of steam coming into this? And then looking at Golden State, I think Golden State is actually in a worse scheduling spot. They're coming off beating Minnesota. They're returning home. They do have one day off, though. But that's a big win over Minnesota nonetheless. I mean, you're beating one of the better teams in the Western Conference, returning home from that. And then they have Christmas Day. They have to play against LeBron and the Lakers. So that could be a look ahead. So it is possible Golden State looks past Indiana here. So looking at this alone, I'm like, oh, this is a sandwich spot. So I want to come in and take the points with Indiana. But then I'm looking at Indiana, the fact they're on a back-to-back, and they're a team that likes to run up and down the court. So they tend to, I think, get tired a little bit more than some other teams might, even though they don't play intense defense. So maybe that's less the case. But when you're running up and down the court and playing fast offense, I think that could fatigue you as well. So I'm just going to stay away from this one too. I just can't do it, man. And then we do have Pistons Lakers. Lakers down from 8 to 5.5. It looks like there is some legitimate money coming in on the Detroit side in this one. 67% of tickets on the Lakers, 80% of the cash on the Pistons. I probably don't disagree with that. I mean, the Lakers are coming off beating Sacramento twice in a row, which I'd have to remember I don't know if that was playoff revenge for last year or not, because I know the Lakers lost in those play-in games, and I don't remember if it was to Sacramento or not, but they just beat Sacramento twice. Decent wins there, and they're returning home from that, although obviously you're just returning home from Sacramento down to LA. Not a huge deal, not a huge travel. But again, who do they have next? They got Golden State up next, man, on Christmas. So they could overlook Detroit in a spot like this, man. This looks like a sandwich spot to me as well, to that extent. So I would lean to Detroit. I agree with the market read in this one as well. Why am I not playing it? Well, because Detroit just pulled off an upset over Phoenix on the road. That's a big win too. So yes, Detroit's going to be focused. They're going in to play LeBron, but can they sustain that type of effort 2 games in a row like this? I'm not so sure. So I'm just going to stay away from that one too, although I do lean to Detroit still in that one. And then the game that I was closest to playing, the problem with this game is that there are like some injury concerns going on in this game. I like the Hawks in this game against the Timberwolves, but you got to figure out, is Trae Young going to play in this game? That's the problem. Timberwolves are coming off a game where they played against Golden State 2 days ago. Pretty tough, man. I mean, this is a game where Golden State was blowing the T-Wolves out of their own building. T-Wolves made a massive comeback, and I think at some points they actually took the lead in this game, or they at the very least had it tied repeatedly. So they got really close in this game, and then they lost in the final minutes of the game. Huge effort game for the Timberwolves in that game. And then after this Atlanta game, yes, I know they're going out and starting a road trip, so that does tend to be a focus spot generally when you leave home after a loss like that. Sometimes it usually tends to be a focus spot, but in this case, I don't really think so, man, because coming off that brutal loss to Golden State, and then what do they have up next? Yeah, they're playing the Western Conference champs in the on Christmas, and it's Dallas, so I think it's actually playoff revenge, right? Because Dallas was the team that did Dallas knock Minnesota out last year? I think they did, but Minnesota did already play Dallas once, so they lost on their home court to them. So this is a big game for Minnesota, man. Like, what better thing for Minnesota could there possibly be than to get playoff revenge against Dallas on ESPN on Christmas? That would be a nice Christmas gift for Minnesota and for their fans there if they were able to pull that off. So I do think this is a look ahead. I think they're going to look past this Atlanta team that's struggling again and falling below 500. But we've seen this Atlanta team. This Atlanta team has been able to beat the best teams in the NBA, man. I mean, they've beaten Cleveland they've multiple times, actually. I think they've beaten Boston. I mean, this Atlanta team can beat anybody on any given day. So Atlanta, I mean, they're not as bad as their record looks. They're at home. They're getting points here. They're coming off kind of an ugly loss against Memphis, but that was a game where they were returning home from a road trip. They played into overtime the previous game, even though I know San Antonio is not that good, but still, it wasn't the greatest spot for Atlanta. They got killed by Memphis in that game. I think they're going to want to turn it around. They don't play on Christmas, so they may be even playing with a little bit of extra chip on their shoulder, and it might make it a more focused spot for them because they don't have that look-ahead spot that Minnesota does. And they might be thinking, hey, like maybe we deserve to be playing on Christmas because we've had some big wins here, but we don't get that, scheduling spot here. The schedule makers don't like us, so maybe it's a situation like we'll show you, and we'll show up and play well against Minnesota in this game. The issue is Trae Young going to play in this game? He's hurt, and he didn't play in the last game. And it seems like the line is kind of indicating that he's not going to play. So he's missed 1 game so far. So that's a problem as well, because that means that was the injured player spot where Trae Young was out in that game. Although, then again, the Hawks really didn't play well in that game. So I don't think it's going to be one of those spots where they stepped up their game in that injured player spot and played really well, and now they're going to be in the letdown spot in the second game without him, and they have that regression now. I actually don't think that's going to be the case in this game because they didn't play well in that game without Trae Young. I think Trae Young is probably going to be out again in this game. Basically, that's what I'm getting from this line being where it is here. T-Wolves, actually, it's gone down from 4.5 to 3.5, so it does look like it's kind of moving in the Hawks' direction. Maybe I will actually just play this game because really, I mean, if Trae Young if it is announced that he's going to play, you're just going to get more value if you play the Hawks at the better number here. The line's just going to come towards the Hawks, so you'll at least get line value if you do that. Otherwise, you're playing what looks like a good situation to fade the T-Wolves at the very least here. I don't know, man. Do I want to actually do this? It's close. I'm thinking about it. Although, again, if Trae Young does come back, of course, I mean, it's going to make the Hawks a better team. But then again, will the Hawks get a little bit complacent because all our star players back? We don't have to play as hard. I actually don't think that's going to be the case because, again, they didn't play well in their previous games. So I think they are going to be focused here with Minnesota coming in. You know what? Let's do it. Fuck it. Atlanta Hawks +4. I hate myself. I'm not being selective enough here. That'll be the one NBA play today. It's just a really bad scheduling spot, in my opinion, for the T-Wolves, man. And that is, I believe, such a major look ahead. Let me make sure I'm not wrong about this as far as the revenge scenario there. I think I'm right. I'm not losing my mind here. It's not a Mandela effect, is it? Let me see here. No, give me the postseason, ESPN. Yeah, Dallas was the team that eliminated Minnesota. Yeah, in the conference finals. I remember correctly. I was at the Libertarian National Convention when some of these games were going on. Yeah, I remember. And my Boston Celtics are playing the Indiana Pacers at the same time. All right, give me the Hawks. Fuck it. Yeah, that's right, Charles. You like that one? I don't even like it, and I'm putting money on it, which is going to be the stupidest thing that I've ever done, probably. All right, hockey. There are a few games that are interesting in hockey, but I'm only going to actually have one play. First game that kind of caught my eye, and ooh, boy. Am I going to add another hockey play here? I kind of want to do it. I mean, I'm looking at Toronto in this game against Winnipeg. This is coming up at 2:07 p.m. Eastern. You talk about odd starting times. How about all these games being on the 07s? I think this is a bad spot for Winnipeg, man. My only hesitation is that who was the team that dealt Winnipeg their first loss of the season? Yeah, that would have been Toronto. And I believe that was also at Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. Where was that game? No, it was at home. So Winnipeg lost at home to Toronto. I think they might remember that, man, that Winnipeg, their first loss of the season was to Toronto, and it was at Winnipeg. So Winnipeg might want to get some revenge here. But then on the other hand, this doesn't look like a very good spot for Winnipeg to me, man. And they're coming off a win over Minnesota, 5-0. I mean, that's a huge win. And now, right before the holidays, they have to take this weird travel out to Toronto. Really? Seems a little bit odd to me, this type of scheduling spot here. And then they go into the holidays. And man, I mean, I think this does look like a letdown spot to me. When you beat one of the better teams in your conference like that, that's a huge win. You shut them out 5-0 and just totally embarrass them. You're going to be feeling pretty high on yourselves, man. And on the other hand, Toronto, I mean, obviously they're going to be focused on Winnipeg here with Winnipeg coming into their place. But Toronto, they're coming off an ugly loss to the New York Islanders, man. And that was in a back-to-back. So, yes, that does mean they are playing a third game in 4 days, but they're going into the break after this, too. That was not the greatest spot, really. They were returning home from a road trip where they won twice against Dallas and Buffalo. They beat Buffalo twice. I had mentioned I didn't really love the spot for Toronto returning home, and it was on a back-to-back, even though they were only going from Buffalo back to Toronto. So that travel between those 2 days wasn't that much. But they got caught by the Islanders, and the Islanders have really been not beating anybody. Even when they've been playing teams in bad spots, they've screwed me over a couple of times. Islanders haven't been doing that well. That's an ugly loss for Toronto, losing 6-3 to the Islanders. I think they're definitely going to be in bounce back mode here. I don't know who they're going to have in net for this one. This has been kind of alternating goalies here, but Wall and Stolarz have been their 2 decent goalies. It looks like Stolarz might be hurt or something because he hasn't played for a while now. So I don't know what's going on there. The Wall has been pretty good. Will it be him in net again here? I don't even know. Thank you, sir. I at least hope my speech went over pretty. Oh, at Georgia, not at the national convention. At Georgia, yeah. Thank you. Hopefully my performance in that debate was good there. You know what? I'm going to add yet another play here. Fuck it. I have no self-control right now. I shouldn't be forcing plays just because I'm trying to not have a losing year this year, which is going to happen anyway. But give me the Toronto Maple Leafs here, minus 110. I'm going to do it. Fuck it. The market looks like it's in agreement with me. Toronto's up from minus 109 to minus 110. 60% of the cash on them now. 67% of tickets on Winnipeg. I don't know if the revenge spot is really going to be that much for Winnipeg here. Winnipeg's coming off a huge win. Toronto's coming off an embarrassing loss. Whatever. Give it to me. Give me it. I will point out that my Boston Bruins, interesting line here, that the Bruins are up from -124 to -126. They're at home here, but they're actually a favorite against Washington, and they're getting like a little bit more than home ice. I mean, I consider home ice to be like 20 cents in hockey, so -120 would be like indicative of Boston being like exactly even with Washington. The odds makers are telling you that in this spot, at the very least, Boston is slightly better than Washington. That's crazy to me, man, that line is indicating that. Washington, 51% of tickets, 93% of the cash on them, though. I don't know what to think about this game. I'm just going to root for the Bruins, obviously, because they are my team. But Washington's coming off a couple of big wins in a row over Carolina and the LA Kings, and they got Toronto up after the break. But they are starting a road trip here. But again, it's going to be disrupted by the holiday. So do they really consider this to be the start of a road trip? I don't really know. I don't know how focused they're going to be on Boston, man, after a couple of wins against teams with better records. They're on a back-to-back as well, having to fly up to Boston here for this before they go into the holiday. So it doesn't look like a very good spot for Washington, in my opinion. I don't necessarily love the way the market looks, but it does almost look like they're begging you to take Washington at the underdog price here, because the public's going to come and look at this, and who's going to want to take Boston and lay a price with Boston? I don't know. Boston, I mean, they were in a bad spot, and I faded them. And not only was it a bad spot, but they didn't even play Swayman. They had Korpisalo in net in that one, which is even worse for Boston, because they're significantly worse of their two goalies here. Boston was coming back from that huge road trip, and they still beat Buffalo. So I thought they were in a bad spot off of multiple overtime games, taking Edmonton into overtime and having a lead at Edmonton. They had this Washington game up next. I am shocked that the Bruins actually won this game, to be honest, even though Buffalo's not very good. Buffalo's on a massive loss streak, I'm pretty sure, right now. So I got hit by that train, by the Buffalo loss train. But, man, Boston, that shows me something, that they were able to win even in that bad spot. And now maybe get some new momentum here. I think they're going to be focused with the Caps coming into their place, man. So I lean to the Boston Bruins in that game. I don't think I'm going to quite make that one a play, but I do like the Bruins side in that one slightly. Hopefully they win, man. Tampa Bay is at Florida. Florida just won at Tampa Bay, I believe. So this is one of those home and home, like back-to-back games going on here. So is Tampa Bay going to get the revenge? I don't know. I mean, Florida's down from -155 to -148. 75% of the tickets, 76% of the cash on Florida. The line looks like it is moving against a pretty public Florida team. So, I mean, maybe Tampa will be able to make the adjustments and be able to pull it off and get some revenge against Florida after losing the prior game. I don't know. I don't want to do it, so I'm going to stay away from that one. And then San Jose and Vancouver. This one looks a little bit interesting to me as well. San Jose is coming off. They're starting to play a little bit better, man, or they were for a little while. They're coming off a pretty tough overtime game against Edmonton, man. And now they have to go to Vancouver. I think San Jose might run out of steam in a spot like this, man. So I would not want to try to play San Jose as an underdog here. I would maybe look to lay the Vancouver puck line here. Vancouver's coming off a loss to Ottawa that doesn't look that great. They've lost 3 games in a row. I think they might be a little bit angry right now. They're kind of going to be in bounce back mode here. So I think it's a spot where Vancouver won't overlook their opponent. So I lean to the Vancouver side, even though the line is down from -265 to -245. 76% of tickets, 88% of the cash on Vancouver. The way that I would look to play that game would be Vancouver puck line -1.5 goals. And then we do have interesting market movement here with Carolina at Nashville. Carolina dropping from -145 to -118. I know I got caught the last time I played Nashville. Nashville should have been a winner in that game, though, man. They were up 2 goals in that game. They blew it and lost in overtime against Pittsburgh. I mean, the odds makers continue to tell you that Nashville is not as bad as their record would indicate, but they continue to screw games up. They did win for me against my Bruins. I bet on Nashville and won that one a while ago, back earlier this season. Carolina, obviously they're going to be public, 73% of tickets, but 96% of the cash on them. But I don't think that's right, because this line has moved way down on Carolina. So it looks like the percentage there is not actually what's actually going on here. The line moving that significantly, to me, looks like that it's indicating against Carolina. Carolina, they're coming off a win over the New York Rangers. They're on a back-to-back, 3 games in 4 days against Washington, New York, and now Nashville. Then they go into the holiday break, and they have to come out of that break and play the New Jersey Devils, who've been playing really good hockey. So that's going to be a big game. Beating the New York Rangers was also big because I believe, well, that wasn't revenge because they already got their revenge. The Rangers, I'm pretty sure, eliminated Carolina. Did they eliminate Carolina last year? I think they did. I don't even remember exactly, but whatever. Still a big win when you win over the New York Rangers. Now they're going back-to-back, having to go down to Nashville before they go into this holiday break. I don't think it's a very good spot for Carolina, in my opinion. Nashville, I mean, they're playing bad hockey, obviously. Looking for something, but the problem with Nashville, I don't think I can quite bring myself to play this one, is they're coming off a big win themselves after they screwed me over in that loss to Pittsburgh, like I said, after they did beat the New York Rangers. So maybe that was a bigger win than I thought it was. And maybe I shouldn't have played them, but I don't think so. I mean, Nashville still outplayed Pittsburgh in this game, and they blew it. And then they beat the LA Kings in their last game, though. That's a big win, man, playing that game in overtime. My problem is Nashville going to be able to sustain that effort 2 games in a row? I don't know. The one good thing, if you like Nashville here, is that Saros, their primary goaltender, actually didn't play in that Kings game. Noonan was their goalie in that game. Noonan, he's like me, man. He's got a Noonan syndrome, and they still won that game. So now I think they're going to get their better goalie back in net here, and he's going to be rested, Saros. So that's a good sign for Nashville as well in this game. I just don't think I can quite do it just because that was a big effort, overtime win over the Kings. So I can't quite do it, but I do still agree with the Nashville side in that one. I did say I had one other hockey play, which is my favorite play of the day. And that is, where's it at? What am I doing? Where do I? Oh, yeah. It's that team I just talked about, the Buffalo Sabres, underdog money line plus 132. Give me Buffalo against the Islanders in this one, man. The Islanders are down from minus 155 to minus 147. Those look like they have the cash percentage on them for now, but I think we might see that shift around once we get into tonight. 71% of tickets, 75% of the cash on the Islanders. So we do see, they do have the cash percentage right now, but I don't think that's accurate because the Islanders are public and we do see movement against them. And how are the Islanders public? Well, it's because Buffalo can't win a fucking game. But I mean, if Buffalo's going to win a game, it's probably going to be against the Islanders, to be honest, because the Islanders, they're just that team to me, man. I mean, they can't win. They can't win when I play them in advantageous spots. So maybe they'll finally lose in a disadvantageous spot, hopefully, because, you know, I'm not playing on them to try to be good this time. I'm playing on them to suck ass. So let's do that. I mean, look at what they're coming off of. They just beat the Toronto Maple Leafs after they got shut out by Carolina. They're returning home from a road trip, although I know it's not a huge travel spot coming from Toronto back to New York, but still, not a huge trip either, but still, they were gone for 8 days. So they're still returning home from a road trip. They're coming into the holidays here, so that might exacerbate that a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of a distraction. I think you're going to have things to put away at home. You got things to do at home prior to the holidays. You just came off a huge win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. Sorokin has played 1 million games in a row here. So is he going to play again? I have no idea. How can he continue to play this many games in a row? So you're either going to get a really tired Sorokin in net for the Islanders, or you're going to get, I guess, Varlamov might be in for them, and that would be a downgrade, I guess, in their goaltender situation. So either way, the goaltender situation, I think, sets up to fade the Islanders here as well. I don't think they're going to be focused on a Buffalo team that can't win a goddamn game. I mean, Buffalo, what do we got going on with Buffalo? How many games have they lost in a row now? I tried to play them against Boston. That didn't work. Let's count them. 13 losses in a row for Buffalo. Let's play them yet again. 2 games in a row. Let's do it, man. Oh, my. I know they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities, but the good thing about this is they're trying to get a win by any means necessary, man. I mean, they're on the roads. They're not distracted by, like, the home holiday stuff yet. They got the holidays to worry about after this. They don't want to go into the holiday break on a giant loss streak, man. They want to get a win. I mean, I would imagine. I think Luukkonen will be back in net for them in this one. He's kind of their primary goaltender. Reimer played in their last game, which I should have realized that they weren't going to play Luukkonen in that one, but I thought it would at least be Levi. Reimer is probably the least of all their goalies here. It should be Luukkonen back in net, so you'll get the better Buffalo goaltender probably against either a really tired Islanders goalie or the Islanders' lesser goalie. So Buffalo, I think, should have the goaltending edge in this one slightly, in my opinion. I think they're going to want to bounce back, man. I mean, or try to end this loss streak, man. I mean, this is just embarrassing at this point. They went into this loss streak with a winning record, too. This is just crazy. Something's got to give, man. I think it would only make sense that it would be the Islanders who would be the team that Buffalo ends this horrific loss streak against, man. In my opinion, it's this cross-state matchup here where Buffalo's the worst of all the teams in New York right now. So, yeah, I know how ugly that is, but you know me. I like to play ugly teams. I'm an ugly man myself. Buffalo Sabres is my favorite hockey play of the day, plus 132. I'm going to die with this one. Yeah, Stolarz is out. That's what I thought, man. Nate, thanks for showing up. You are what your record says you are. I disagree with that, even though I like Coach Parcells. He was the man back in the day, man. That was the Patriot team that I actually liked. I liked the Bill Parcells, Drew Bledsoe, Curtis Martin, Bill Parcells. I liked that Patriots team, man. And then obviously I hated the Belichick Brady era. Now I'm like neutral on the Patriots, but man, yeah, I don't know. Who's built backwards? I don't know. Which NHL team has the most penalties against? I have no idea. Joe, we could look that up. I don't know if that's could I look it up on StatMuse maybe? I don't know. What's the best way to look that up? I do have a StatMuse account. I don't know. I'll have to I can look it up right now, actually. Let me see. Which team has the most penalties? Or do you want penalties per game? Let's see. I'm gonna look it up real quick just because I'm questioning that as well. That is the Boston Bruins. It is on StatMuse. The Bruins have 152 penalties. The Sabres are second with 149. So wouldn't that also indicate to you that those teams are actually better than what they look? Because if a team has that many penalties, that means they're not playing hockey as badly, right? Like the penalties are hurting them. So I think that's what that indicates, man. So yeah, the Bruins, hey man, they play a physical style. So I kind of like that. They have the most penalties. Fuck it. They're out there. They're playing physical. All right. Oh yeah. You meant Noonan's. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. He's built backwards for sure, man. Whatever his name was there. He's built backwards just like me. Kaprasov has gone 3 games without a goal. Krill the Thrill. Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking that too much into account, obviously, but we will see. What am I moving on to here? I already talked about the bowl games, so I think the only thing I got left is the NFL Monday night game, right? I don't know what's going on in the bowls, but hopefully UTSA is winning. I don't even want to look at it right now, but let's talk about the NFL game. I talked about this on my NFL show. NFL has sucked for me this year. What else can I say about it? It's been awful. I was having a good pick'em year until like a few weeks ago, and then really had a couple of bad weeks. This week has not been bad for me in pick'em, though. This is Saints Packers. This is a difficult read, man. Packers are up from 13.5 to 14 with juice. 84% of tickets, 93% of the cash. Packers very public, of course. Total up from 42 to 43. 70% of tickets, 75% of cash on the over. I really don't know what to think about the total in this one. I mean, the public's going to come in on a Monday night game and play an over when it's, the Packers, Jordan Love. They're going to want to try to get that over. It looks like kind of a low total here, but I mean, most of the reason the total is that low is because the Saints are playing with a rookie quarterback, man, because Derek Carr is out. Saints have some massive injuries. Alvin Kamara is out. And by the way, Alvin Kamara, my top fantasy running back, he's injured. So he's out this week. I lost my matchup by 1 point because I wound up getting Tony Pollard into the mix instead of Alvin Kamara. That is what did it. And then I still had chances to win in the night game. All I needed was Mike Evans to get one fewer catch for my opponent or Dallas to Dallas to score. I mean, one more time to get them over the 30-point threshold. And if either of those had happened, because my idiot opponent had Tampa's defense, I played Atlanta's defense. So I'm the smart one here. And I lost by less than 1 point. I lost by like half a point. So Mike Evans, one fewer reception would have gotten me the win. If Kamara wasn't hurt, I very likely would have won. If because I would have played him instead of Tony Pollard. If Dallas scored like once more, at least if they scored one more touchdown, I guess at the very least, it would have taken one more point away from the Tampa defense, I'm pretty sure. So I would have won that way. I fucking hate it, man. I fucking hate it. And a lot of it was also, you saw me complaining on Twitter. The coach for Kevin Stefanski, the coach for the Cleveland Browns, he should never coach in the league again. For benching Jameis Winston for DTR, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, DTR, that worked out really well, right? No touchdowns at 6 points against maybe the worst defense in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals. Give me a fucking break, man. I have Jerry Jeudy on my fantasy team because I've had so many wide receiver injuries. Jeudy was my guy. And if Jameis Winston was in there, I would have won my matchup too because Jeudy wouldn't have had only 3 fantasy points. It is such bullshit, man. It's insane. DTR is so much worse than Winston. I don't care how many interceptions Winston is throwing. It's absolutely ridiculous, man. It is such an idiotic move. Everybody knows it's a downgrade. I pointed that out when I talked about that game on my NFL show this week. The line moved 3 points just based on that quarterback change. The odds makers know Jameis Winston gives Cleveland a much better chance to win despite his turnovers. He's the way more talented quarterback. DTR is a corpse. So thanks a lot, Kevin Stefanski. You should be fired. You should be banned from the NFL. Get the fuck out. Now back to this Monday night game. The New Orleans Saints, yeah, they're playing with a rookie quarterback, which is, what's his name again? So they're playing without Derek Carr. They're playing without Alvin Kamara. They have wide receiver injuries. I think Olave is out for the season. So they're without their starting quarterback, their top wide receiver, and their top running back. Isn't that just great? So the Saints side of things, I don't know. I don't know where the scoring is really going to come from, man. But they're coming off a game where they played pretty respectably, man. They played pretty competitively. I know the refs kind of gave them that beneficial call there where they stop the clock or whatever when they shouldn't have, which gave the Saints that opportunity to try to get the tying score there. And instead they went for 2 to try to win the game against Washington, and they didn't get the 2-point conversion and wound up losing. So they were going to cover either way because Washington was a 7.5-point favorite. The total was going to go under either way, but the issue with the betting market was that it mostly affected teasers. So there were a lot of teaser players that had they had Washington in money line parlays. So Washington still won, so they still hit those money line parlays. But I think the books really kind of wanted those parlays to get crushed because the other favorites, the Bengals against the Titans and the Chiefs against the Browns, I think they had both won. So the books really wanted something to end those money line parlays. So I think that was part of the reason why that clock stoppage happened there, to try to give that an opportunity. But it did kill the teasers, though, which I guess at least helped the books somewhat, help them not totally get killed, even though those money line parlays, I think, definitely hurt them. But the teasers in this case would have been people would have been teasing Washington down from 7.5 to 1.5. So it actually busted up those teasers because they didn't cover the 1.5. It's all hilarious. But the Saints, I mean, they're coming off a big effort, man. They stepped it up and they played a big effort. But remember, Alvin Kamara played in this game for the most part. And then New Orleans, actually, I don't know who's actually playing quarterback for them, because I think Hayner started the game for them. He's their the rookie quarterback I was talking about. It looks like they took him out and put Spencer Rattler in, but he didn't do much better. So I actually have no idea which one of them is going to start in this game. It's going to be one of the two. I don't think it even really matters which one of them is going to play as far as this handicap is concerned. I mean, they're both not very good. They're both very young quarterbacks with not much experience. So what else can you take away from that? Not a whole lot. This is a very injured New Orleans team, but all of that's being factored into the line. So I don't want to come in and take New Orleans here, because normally I would consider it, because I do think Green Bay is in a bad spot, even though I know they're hosting a Monday night game. But I mean, they're the Green Bay Packers. They're used to hosting primetime games, big games like this. I mean, they're not going to think that this is like a huge deal that they're playing on Monday night, especially against a horrifically injured, dead New Orleans Saints team. But Green Bay is coming off another primetime game where they smoked the Seattle Seahawks. So they looked really good on Monday night. And then who do they have up next? They got the Minnesota Vikings up on Sunday. So I think this is a sandwich spot. And that's a big game against Minnesota, man. I mean, Green Bay, they still have, technically, I think the division is still in play for them. And they're playing for a wild card spot, obviously. So Green Bay, I mean, they do still need to win games, but I think their wild card spot is pretty secure at this point, because they're sitting at 10-4. So I think this might be a game where they just try to get in and get out against New Orleans. They don't want to get anybody hurt because they are looking forward to these bigger games. Even Chicago is a bigger game because that's a flex game, so that might wind up being a primetime game. Hopefully not, but it is still a divisional game. So I think these games are both bigger than this New Orleans Saints game, man. So Green Bay, they might just want to go kind of vanilla in this game. They won't want to get people injured. So you might see a Green Bay performance that's like just enough to get through this game. So I would certainly not lay the points with Green Bay in this one. I think it looks similar to that Buffalo game, as I talked about on my show. Buffalo was coming off a huge win over the Lions. And I think they were just going to try to get in and get out against the Patriots and just not try to get people hurt. And that is what they did. They won the game and didn't cover, which is basically what I expected. So that was the case with Buffalo. It looks similar to me with this Green Bay game, but Green Bay, it's more of a sandwich spot because Buffalo doesn't have any big games up, really. They got the Jets and the Patriots again. Green Bay, I mean, this game against Minnesota is huge. So it's a huge rivalry as well. So Green Bay does have a much bigger game up next than Buffalo did, but the line, the situation, they all kind of look similar to me to that Buffalo game. And the line is 2 touchdowns, just like it was. But Green Bay, everybody's going to want to come in on Green Bay, man. After they blew out Seattle, they looked great on primetime. The game before that, they were also on primetime, and they played well against Detroit and lost by 3. So the public is not going to downgrade Green Bay in their minds at all with a loss to Detroit by 3. Nobody's going to care about that. That was a competitive game. But Green Bay, that means they're coming off 2 big games because they played Thursday night, huge step-up game against Detroit, and then Sunday night, blowing out the Seattle Seahawks. So bad spot for Green Bay all around here, man. So I don't expect Green Bay I really don't expect them to cover this number, to be honest. The problem is, can I put my money on this New Orleans Saints team that has nobody left, that is completely depleted? I have no idea. I don't think I can do it. I don't just have no idea. I mean, the answer to that is no. So I'm not going to do it. I think you do have to look into, does New Orleans have their center back, though? Because their Pro Bowl center, as I've been pointing out all year, was in their offense these first 2 games of the season, and then he got injured, and they lost a ton of games. And I don't know if he's come back at all. So you got to look that up, too. I forget his name, but their primary center there, he's a big piece on their offensive line. So if he's out, too, I mean, that is just crazy. I mean, I don't really see where New Orleans points are going to come from, man, to be honest. So, and if Green Bay isn't putting in like a completely full effort in this game, you could see this game potentially be an under type of game as well. So I guess maybe if I had to lean on the total, it would be slightly towards the under in this one as well, but I'm not going to do that. So that's how I look at this game. I think that's it, right? I didn't miss any sports, right? I think I hit them all. A lot of sports today. That's going to do it for me, man. Let's enjoy the games today. My plays one more time are in college basketball, Seattle plus 11. Hockey, because I can't help myself. Buffalo Sabres plus 132. Really bucking the losing streak on that one. Toronto Maple Leafs minus 110. And NBA, hopefully Trae Young comes back, but I do think it's a bad spot for Minnesota. Give me the Atlanta Hawks, the world-beating Atlanta Hawks. They can beat anybody on any given day, man. Plus 4 in that one at home. That's going to do it. Happy Festivus, everybody. Let's get some feats of strength from our teams that we played today. And if they do horribly for me, I'm going to be airing my grievances. Happy Festivus to everybody. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Yes, let's go. Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to go 5-0 today. I missed snooker. What about snooker? Yeah. I bet on the weird British pool table sports. Yeah, I bet on snooker all the time, and we call it snooker in Massachusetts here in Boston. That's gonna do it for me, man. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Tower Gang Toad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter /X, Patreon.com/TowerGang. You get the bonus content, live pre-show, post-show. Let me get the videos up on the Patreon feed right after this. Now that I have time to actually wait for those uploads to happen. So yeah, patreon.com/TowerGang. You get live pre-show, post-show. You get to hang out with us in Telegram, submit to the mailbag, whatever. It's the most offensive and hilarious podcast to ever exist. That's going to do it once again. Let's have a good one, man. And let's enjoy this Myrtle Beach Bowl that's going on right now. And some college basketball, I think, is about to start in 10 minutes too. Peace out, guys.